Only mode.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. This, our second series, our second webinar in the 2018 Crisis Coach series. My name is Karen Masullo. I'm the Chief Intelligence Officer for Firestorm, and I am joined by my favorite pet, Roxanne. She is the wonder dog. And if a leaf drops a mile from here, she will bark, so I will try to keep that from happening. I'm also joined by a couple of other people I'll introduce in a moment. And our moderator for today is the wonderful Bill Baker from Firestorm. If you have any questions or comments during this session, there is a toolbar to your right for GoToWebinar that has a chat function, and you can raise your hand if you have a question, or you can use the chat to type in your comment or your question. And at different breaks in the session, Bill Baker will let us know if indeed you would like to make a comment or say something to us. If you give me just a second, I will move this forward. I'm not quite sure why that's showing. Oh, sorry about that.
And like I said, keep going on here because I want to make sure that I'm telling my bosses what's going on because this one's getting a little silly, especially because
excuse me, is there?
Which was funny because I forwarded a copy of the email.
I'm not sure if that's Jay or Bill, but can you mute your phone, please? Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move forward. You can connect with Firestorm via social accounts and engagement using the hashtag CrisisCoach. We are Firestorm Soul on Twitter, Firestorm Solutions on Facebook, Continuity Experts on our YouTube channel, and Firestorm Solutions on LinkedIn. The hashtag for any webinar or other types of social engagement is Crisis Coach. And we'll see that and comment back to you as soon as possible. Our attorneys like us to say that this exercise is not complete without the accompanying oral comments and discussion, and any work product provided by Firestorm must be read in conjunction with all guidance given by national, regional, and local authorities, as well as your organization's personal counsel. Moreover, the information given and comments made in this webinar should not be interpreted as legal advice or legal opinion. Firestorm transforms crisis into value. We empower you to manage crisis and risk. We are not limited to crisis management, critical decision support, crisis communications, crisis public relations, and consequence management, but that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And we're also going to talk about some other things that we do for you. I'd like to introduce our host today. Jay Williams is the president-elect for the Association of Contingency Professionals for the Eastern Great Lakes chapter. Jay, would you like to say a couple of words and talk about any upcoming events that may be happening?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. So good morning and welcome, everyone. The Great Lakes chapter is an excellent resource for individuals charged with or interested in crisis management, emergency response, risk management, and of course, technology and business recovery planning. Our membership meets on a bi-monthly basis, and we dig into relevant topics and share experiences. First-time guests are always welcome and may attend free of charge. And I should say that we always have a wonderful spread of delicious refreshments. Our next chapter meeting is on March 21st at 1 p.m. in Buffalo, New York. And our guest speaker, Cheryl Moore from the Erie County Department of Health, is going to share on opioid overdose recognition and the use of Narcan for reversal. About that, a friend of mine and colleague shared that it was a, quote, horrifyingly fascinating presentation. Lastly, I'm really excited to announce the chapter's annual conference taking place on September 11th at the Batavia Downs Gaming, Hotel, Casino, and Resort. More to come on that, but please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about the chapter or upcoming events. Thanks.
Oh, thanks so much, Jay, and thank you so much to the ACP, both the Eastern Great Lakes chapter and the national location. You can find the Eastern Great Lakes chapter sub-page or private page through going to the Association of Contingency Professionals website at ACP. So thank you very much. And I'm going to tee up a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. That's me. I'm getting a better picture taken, I swear. I am Karen Masullo, and we're going to talk about predictive analytics. I was wondering whether I wanted to move forward in the exact way today after the events of yesterday in Florida. As you know, Firestorm is America's crisis coach, and we are the nation's school violence experts. We have also recently had the privilege of having a wonderful company join the Firestorm family of companies and have become our security solutions arm. A gentleman named Jason Russell is our Chief Security Officer for Firestorm now, and he and his team are former Secret Service personnel and have some great insight into not only yesterday's event, but like events, whether for business or school environments for any organization. So I just want to put this into context that we're going to do something interesting today. We're going to do a mini exercise. It doesn't have to do with deadly weapons or workplace violence, but it is something to consider. And if you have any questions or you want a confidential conversation in this regard, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can contact us at info@firestorm.com, through our contact form on our website. That all comes to either myself or Bill Baker. It's confidential, and we'll reach out and help you in any way that you may need help going forward. And again, we have now former Secret Service personnel who are highly trained at our disposal. So I just want to let you know that if for any reason you have any concerns in your own organization and would like to talk to someone about it, please reach out. Additionally, because you are a member of the Association of Contingency Professionals in the Rochester area, and those of you on this call who may be from other areas, we have an opportunity to help you in a crisis with something that's underwritten by the association, and that is called Crisis Stop, and it is exactly what it sounds like. If you find you are in a crisis in your organization, and it can be of any type, it can be from financial irregularity to an accident on your property. Firestorm is there to provide senior level principles to help you stop, gather your thoughts, and figure out exactly what the next steps are. We will talk to you for an hour. We'll talk to you for 15 minutes. We'll help you through whatever it is you need for that first hour. It's a really valuable resource when you are in the middle of a crisis and you have not quite prepared for that specific type of crisis. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to run you through a mini exercise. It's a mini tabletop. If some of you are in an office with those other members of your team, you can work with your team to decide who does what. Otherwise, I want you to think through this as if it were evolving in the 40 minutes that we are going to have for the rest of this webinar. We're basing a lot of our information on predictive analytics. Predictive analytics originally bubbled up out of the marketing realm. And predictive analytics say that if we gather enough data from you and your activities via not just social media, but all aspects of the web, if you allow us to see that information, we can customize your experience for you. And we take it to another level. We take all analytics and can look at them and customize experiences, products, and services so that it's not for your organization, but it's for you at the individual level. Of course, for the organization as well. But that's how fine a point big data can put on what is needed. So we take that in 2012, Jim Satterfield and I were looking at data, and we were seeing information bubble up about, I'm going to bring a gun to school, or I hate my boss at work, or other things that were actually being voiced on social media, that with the right tools, using only publicly aggregated social information, we were able to keep some violent or other crisis events from occurring within our client organizations. Predictive intelligence has its root in the customization of the customer experience, and we then adapted it for crisis and behaviors of concern identification. There are now tools that are specifically designed only for the identification of behaviors of concern. And they have at their heart sort of in this marketing realm. So that gives us some background for what we're going to talk a little bit about. And we asked you, when you registered for this session, we said, first of all, who's responsible for monitoring? So no matter the size of your organization, if you're a small banking organization or maybe you're a large retail mall, who is specifically responsible for not pushing messages out, but for all aspects of listening and monitoring chatter and messages that may be going on? And 20% of you said marketing, 20% of you said human resources, 10% of you said security, and about 50% of you just weren't sure, didn't know or thought it belonged somewhere else. And that's an interesting statistic, especially for those of you that are leaders in your organizations. It's really important that you know where that data lives, who has that data. It doesn't go to IT, it's actually everyone in the organization, right? It affects every aspect of the organization. Then we asked, how does your organization use analytical tools, if you knew? And about 40% of you, about the same, just didn't know, weren't sure. A lot of people thought marketing and threat identification were sort of all in there together. Some people said neither, I don't know. You know, we probably don't do anything. And some people, we are using it for threat identification, which is great. So what we're going to show you are tools that we can leverage for both. Because in a crisis, isn't it great to have the opportunity to also message out if that's what's wise to do at the time? Now, quite often we're going to tell you that everything you learn about a crisis in the first 24 hours is probably wrong. So we want you to step back on messaging, talk to us through our Crisis Stop program so that we can actually gather the facts and help you make the critical decisions that you need so to assure your first response doesn't then become the secondary crisis. Today we're going to be talking about Firestorm Intelligence Solutions. Firestorm is but empowered by 6 different sectors that bring you the opportunity to have all of your services under one roof. We're unique in the industry in that regard. We have crisis and risk solutions. We work with major insurance companies and other high-impact organizations to develop new products and services to allow you to stay in front of risk and crisis. We have people solutions. We have an arm of our company that not only has the largest database of highly trained contingency professionals in the world, but because we have this huge database through our acquisition of a company called BC Management, we also have the ability to produce powerful reports, peer industry, event impact reports, compensation reports, etc. So please don't hesitate to talk to us about that. Security solutions, as I've mentioned, we have a team of former Secret Service professionals that work with us on all aspects from building and renovation, starting at the beginning, to threat assessment and protocols for active shooters. Our professional services solutions are where we perform assessments, we develop plans, training, we conduct exercises like today, although today we are combining sort of a mini tabletop and with our intelligence solutions where we're looking to identify risk, threats, and vulnerabilities and behaviors of concern. And last are our analytical solutions, and that's diagnostic tools, benchmarking, reports, data, and analysis. So that just gives you a little bit of a picture. In the predictive intelligence scope of services, just so that you understand our experience in this space. Everything we're going to talk about today is based upon a real experience. And Firestorm was established in 2005, and since then I promise you we have seen every type of crisis evolve that we never expected to see. And we practice different types of crisis situations because what we know is the actual crisis probably won't evolve in the way exactly that we have practiced. There will be things that were unanticipated that we did not expect, and that's why we practice, so that the things that we know are going to happen can be handled, and those unexpected things can be handled more calmly. When you practice, when your team is ready, you buy time, and that's what's important about these types of exercises. When I say that Firestorm helps monitor or look at the social interactions and predictive intelligence of more than 60 organizations, I want you to understand that some of those organizations have multiple or thousands of organizations within them. So as an example, Firestorm did the predictive intelligence monitoring for a real estate investment trust in a very large state. And this real estate investment trust, as just a part of the geographic monitoring or geofence monitoring we did for them, had a hospital, 2 office buildings on the ground, multi-story office buildings, 3 very large parking lots, a large retail mall, one of the largest in its state, and many other properties on their properties. And we were able to surface a variety of things that had occurred that they otherwise would have been unaware of until much later. They had someone who got stuck in the mall at night after falling asleep watching a movie, and they were tweeting on social media that they were stuck in the mall and didn't know how to get out. We had someone else that was on the roof of that facility doing some very illegal things on a regular basis and posting pictures of it on social media. This is all publicly aggregated information. We found that they had a fight club in one of their garages, and I know the first rule of Fight Club, so I've broken that. But they did. They were advertising when they were going to be meeting on social media, and they were able to alert authorities to stop that fight club from happening on their property. So that's an example of things that you might surface, and it's always unexpected. We're always surprised. We've done more than 100 monitoring, engagement, and crisis stop responses, and that was just in half of last year alone, I believe. At any given time, you can just give us a call. Bill Baker will probably be the person you'll talk to, and you simply let us know you'd like to activate your crisis stop, and we'll assign someone immediately to speak with you and help you stop that crisis. We've delivered more than 3,800 hours of training in this regard and others, virtually and face-to-face, and many more than 100,000 students, employees, and others have been covered by the fence that is our social analytics. So let's talk a little bit at a very high level about what intelligence solutions are. Right now, for many of you on the call, you want to know certain data and information about your company's ability to maintain its resiliency. And that might be anything from knowing that there is a structural fault in a piece of property that needs to be repaired and fixed, or that there's someone within your organization who is exhibiting possible behaviors of concern, and we want to help that person. Our intelligence solutions combine leading intelligence tools that aggregate only publicly posted information. We're not looking at any private information. And then we take seasoned practitioners, former Secret Service professionals who are trained in understanding and interpreting this big data, And then we identify what's being said on news, social, and traditional media in real time, not hours or days later. We're seeing things as they happen, putting them into context, and by sitting down with you and creating a comprehensive workflow, an escalation workflow for your organization, we can alert you within seconds in real time that there's something that you need to pay attention to. We can let you know if there's a sudden escalation of activity where there had been calm before, and also when an escalated crisis is calming down. We utilize very specific threat assessment criteria to determine potential threats, and then we integrate with security and crisis management solutions to support your internal program development, the creation of your risk profile, because it's unique to your organization, your culture, your property. We'll do your threat assessment and then establish what those escalation protocols are, so that when you are alerted to something, you're not sitting there wondering, I wonder what I'm supposed to do next. In order for the intelligence network piece of your program to be effective, possible threats have to be understood, they have to be discussed, documented, and of course, categorized. What we do is we start by sitting down with you and creating a very specific risk profile. We need to understand your organization, how many people, your history, and from there, we give some contextual analysis to what we see occurring. It's hard to explain, but there may be specific words or phrases that are unique to your organization that we need to exclude because they may have been perceived as threats for another organization, but for your organization, for some reason, it's part of the lexicon. You may make knives. Well, then the word knife is going to be used quite often, so we have to put that in context. We need to have a specific, then, threat alert workflow design, and that is so that we know for this specific type of a crisis, these are the people we need in the room. For this crisis, these are the people we need in the room. If we have a combined crisis of 2 things or 3 things, these are the people we need in the room. And all of those people need to know their roles, their responsibilities. And if you don't test, you will not know where your weakness is. And it is not a criticism against anyone in your team to reassign them to a different role, because in a crisis, we can't have an ego, right? We just need to take care of the crisis and make sure people and property are safe. And then we sit back and we observe and report back to you. We give you data on this is what we're seeing. This is the ebb and flow of the conversation of your organization. These are people external to your conversation talking about it. These are people internal to your organization. I said conversation, I meant organization. And then there are people that you don't even know, that may be strangers, that may be for some reason talking about your organization. We had a recent situation that we were monitoring for a very public organization in a nearby state to yours, and they were alerted to an issue because they received 15 voicemails after hours that went on for hours. There were 15 voicemails in a row, and each voicemail was quite long. And they were the voicemails had a very heavy accent from the south of the United States, and this was in a northeastern state, so it was made heavier by that ear. And there were vague threats, but not threats against someone within the organization, which was confusing. The person gave information, contact information. All of it was false. It was wrong. And it was frightening to the people listening on the other end. And we were given all of those recordings. We listened to them all. I used some software and slowed the recordings down so I could better make out the information. And then we used our different tools to not only look broadly on social media and other for information that sounded like or referenced some of these keywords and phrases the caller used, but we also were able to pin down very specifically using a geofence and some other information where these messages were actually coming from. And we Bill, can we mute someone, please? Thank you. I appreciate that. So we were able to move that process forward, and we're able to identify someone who had actually been arrested and charged 6 years prior with the exact same type of crime. It was an abuse of an official phone system, and they had just come off of, they were given parole, and they had just come off of that. And they were also ordered, as a terms of that parole sentence, to stay on their medication. So there was obviously something going on, and we were able to get back to that person, pinpoint it, and that person was able to receive help, and we were able to intervene. So I just wanted to explain to you how that evolved and hope that makes sense to you. I'm going to reference these tools in just a moment. I'm going to come back and reference these tools. We use something for broad listening and insights, and then we use something for very specific identification of a person with a very small amount of information. And through the view that I have here, I can see if someone shows me a picture of a weapon or a gun or something at your organization. The images that you're seeing right now, just to put it in context, this image and this next image are part of a monitoring that we did for a school system who was having a very big challenge, not with the kids, but with adults threatening each other at a sporting event. And it was getting very heated on social media. We were able to see all of the tweets, all of the Instagram messages, and all of the public Facebook posts. We can't see private Facebook posts. But we were able to figure out what the chatter was about, if there was anything that they needed to be aware of from an alert level. And again, we can do that visually. I could see here, is anybody, you know, showing a sign that looks violent or holding a weapon of any type. And in this way, I could pinpoint the exact location. And that's actually the football field, and that's all the messages that were coming out of that. So what I want to do right now with you is we're going to do a very simple exercise. Normally, an exercise like this is a full day or 2 days of an escalation. We're going to do something in about 15 minutes because in the real world, that's how it's going to happen. It's going to evolve very quickly. So picture yourself at your business right now today. We'll pick a random business, or just picture yourself at your desk where you are listening to this call. Let's say your facilities house, you're in a building with other businesses, and another business may affect your business. Or you're on your own property with manufacturing and business offices on the same property. I want you to base your responses upon whether you have any regular monitoring set up that assists you in your marketing efforts. And I want you to also base your response on whether you have monitoring set up to assist you in being alerted to behaviors of concern. If you don't know either of those things, put that on your list of things to do after this session. Find out who does monitoring in your organization and what they're monitoring for. And instead of it being 2:10 p.m., let's assume it's 9:29 in the morning, which is what it is right now. You are alerted suddenly that there's a Twitter post out there in the world with a hashtag that says Me Too plus your company's name. The Me Too hashtag is being used for persons who want to say that they have been abused in some way by both male and female in an inappropriate way. And clicking into the original post, you see that the account is anonymous. You can't identify who it is. It's from someone that says they are random girl. and it says, me too, my manager at, and they use your company name. Widgets Bank, Widgets Manufacturing, Widgets Office Products. No one will help me. So first of all, we know there's a possible victim out there. We don't know. We don't have any information. We can't determine what's real and what's not. We do know that 250 people are commenting on it. That's what that little comment number means. We do know that there are 146 reshares of this message, and that 112 people have favorited it. And that, it just came out, which means if that many people are being that active with this, it's only going to grow. So at this point, what do? You're sitting there and you have a piece of information. You don't know if it's real or not. You don't know what it is. Who do you talk to? Who do you inform? What next steps would you take in monitoring or investigating the origin of this message? Do you have any way of knowing how many people have actually seen this message and are discussing it? And do you have any way of identifying who owns the account? Can you do that? Everyone on this call right now, just sit there and think, all right, what would I do? I think a lot of us would look more deeply into this individual's account, look at past messages, try to develop a pattern of conversation. Additionally, people quite often post pictures and images without realizing that we can see what the location is. I actually was able to identify a student with a gun in school because even though his account was anonymous, in an older post, he had posted his school schedule. And he had a specific teacher who had a very unusual name. I did a quick search on teachers with that name, and there was only one school in North Carolina where someone was teaching that class. And I was able to alert the school that there was a problem. So we can very quickly, within minutes, identify what those next steps are if we think through the process. For this situation, we can use broad listening tools. We use a tool called Insights. It's rated best of class by Forrester in 2017. It is a Hootsuite product. And we can conduct broad keyword and key phrase analysis. We have a very clear workflow so that if I identify there's an issue, I can alert Jay today. If Jay is part of my workflow, I can say, Jay, I think you need to look at this within seconds. Jay can go into the application in his view. He can look at it. He can assign it to someone. He can take an action. He can document it. And we have a documented record of awareness and activity to mitigate. We are able to extensively, not just Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, but any application that has an RSS feed to it. We can customize an RSS feed, and we can look at a variety of social, new, and news media as well. So we can understand if this message is being carried any farther. All right, let's go to step 2, everybody. Now that you're sitting at your desk, a couple of minutes have passed since you first became aware of this message that mentions your company's name. You're still not really clear. You're still trying to decide if it's real, if you should just ignore it, because quite frankly, you have a conference call at the top of the hour, and you have a deliverable for that conference call that you have to have ready. So this is probably nothing, right? You also have a dentist appointment later on today, or your kids have a soccer game. You don't have time for a crisis. You know, one time I asked our CEO, Jim Satterfield, who our biggest competitor was, and he said denial. And that's what many of us might do in this situation. We might say, oh, it's nothing. I'll look into it later. I'll have human resources look at it. Suddenly, a former employee of your organization who was terminated shares the post that she saw on Twitter about your company on her Facebook account and starts railing against your company. starts talking about all the terrible things she experienced. Not only that, she posts on Glassdoor.com. And if you don't know what that is, let me know, and I'll tell you. She posts on Yelp, and she posts on your public Facebook page, because you allow posting on your Facebook page. Sometimes when we're in the middle of a crisis and we haven't figured out exactly what's going on yet, we turn off the ability to post to our social accounts just so that we can get a handle on things without having everybody inundate our accounts. Of course, if you don't know who handles your social accounts, that's going to be a problem. The part-time person who manages your Facebook page sees all of these people talking, and that person does what, quite frankly, she was trained to do. She engages. She says, no, we did not. We're not that kind of company. So-and-so doesn't even work here anymore. And that inflames the community. That inflames the people who are posting. And so your part-time employee turns off the ability to post to your Facebook page. Well, you can't undo that. You can't put the fence up after people have crossed your perimeter, because while you physically can do it, you're only going to inflame people more, because now they want to know what you have to hide. And that only escalates the situation. Marketers, people who do social media, are trained to engage. In a crisis or a risk situation, we may not want to engage at all until we have enough information on which to base our communication and our interaction. So we can't fault this person, right? She just did what she thought she was supposed to do. However, her actions blow up social media. People actually find her personal page and are threatening her on her personal page if she doesn't turn back commenting on the Facebook page. So suddenly you're sitting at your desk trying to decide how you're going to get this deliverable for your 10 o'clock meeting, and you receive simultaneous panic phone calls from that part-time employee, your human resource director who just tried to talk her down, and suddenly 2 of your key customers who call and say, what the heck is going on over there? What do you do now? What are you in control of? Do you have any control of the situation at all? Can you take control? Do you have a team at the ready, trained, that can assist you with this issue? Do you have an all-hands-on-deck call? I get an email from my CEO. It says all hands on deck. We drop everybody on the team, drops what we're doing. We call into a conference call number. We know exactly what to do, when to do it. Do you have communication pre-prepared for this situation? Not this exact situation, but do you have any type of communication that can then be modified quickly so that you do have something at the ready? And what about the person who made the post? If this person is real, if their complaint is real, how do we get them help? How do we not get distracted from the core human issue? Every crisis is a human crisis. For this, we have another tool that we use. And this allows us, with a small piece of information, whether it be a part of a phone number, an email, a geofence on our own property that can identify if there are any posts coming out of our own property that may help us identify that we have a victim, that we have other issues. 2 years ago, Jim Satterfield and I put a geofence around an organization we were working with. We actually watched someone via their tweet path. We could see visually the path of their tweets walk across this huge manufacturing facility, all of the time becoming more and more enraged at their manager as they were on their way to that person's office for a performance conversation. We were able to alert that there was an escalating issue. And these are publicly posted social conversations. This is nothing private. So have you activated your team? Are they there at the ready with you, helping you? One of them tells you, you know, Jane Doe has been specifically named in this social media post. We don't think she's related to this issue, but her name keeps floating up. Plus, somebody's saying that there's some images floating around Snapchat. Additionally, someone not on your team has gotten word of this because they follow your Facebook page too, and immediately that department manager sends out an unapproved memo cautioning all employees from discussing any like event or complaint. She sends this company-wide. A copy of that memo is what? It's immediately shared. It's not only shared online everywhere, it's shared with the National Labor Relations Review Board and a variety of news outlets. Because I guarantee any memo that you think is confined to the internal organization can be shared externally. We all know that. And then suddenly, while you're sitting there trying to figure out what to do about this little tweet you saw a few minutes ago, you receive a call from a local news station requesting comment because they're going to air this story at 6 p.m. What do you do now? Are you in control? Are you going to talk to the media? Have you been trained to talk to the media? Who are you going to call? Are you going to call legal? Are you going to call marketing? Communications? Most professionals are trained to make decisions based upon information, data, and policy, right? We need facts. But in a crisis, information is usually wrong. The data is not available. You don't have any policies. You've lost command and control. Your brand and your reputation are under attack. Your leadership is involved suddenly, and they may engage personally. Your board may suddenly become aware of this. You may get a call from the CEO who says, what the heck is going on down there? The impacts are disproportionate, and the events are escalating out of control. In this situation, speed, the ability to be nimble and respond, is quality or even survival of your company. And you, your organization, and possibly you individually become the center of media focus, especially if you grant that interview and you haven't got a plan for it. We look at this from a level of being guarded, where we're just monitoring what's going on, to elevated, imminent, and severe. And we can help you understand specifically what to do in each of these areas through the tools and the trained personnel to help you through this crisis. The effectiveness of these tools that we use is tied to the human beings who are charged with using them. And if you haven't even thought through what you would do today if something bubbled up in your organization, that's just a small Twitter post. How are we going to handle some of the larger pieces that come our way? We've planned for hurricanes. We've planned for floods. There are other things that we need to plan for. And I hope this has given you a small window in what can happen in 15 minutes of your day. I also want to recognize that yesterday there was a tragic event in Florida. And we don't want to see that happen in your organization. Every crisis is a human crisis. And we know that by calls like these, by you taking your time on a call like this today, we can help you identify behaviors of concern and at least be aware of challenges that may be occurring that could affect your people or your organization. So what's next? Download a brief of today's session. I'm going to have a synopsis up on the website sometime next week. And if you look into the toolbar of GoToWebinar right now, there are 2 documents that I have put there for you that talk a little bit about predictive analytics, and there's also an infographic that you can download and save and share with your people. I meant to mention that at the beginning. You can also email me at Masullo or webinars@firestorm.com, and we can send that to you. Reach out to us if you'd like to learn more about the Crisis Stop program and register for next month's session and our newsletter. And you'll always be up to date on information. This is the download that if you use your toolbar and go to webinar, you can grab right now, and just gives you a little bit of an idea of what predictive intelligence looks like. I know we're right at the time limit, but I'd like to ask Jay if Jay has any comments at the end of today's session.
I would just want to express my thanks, Karen, for a beautiful job sharing on this important topic. Obviously, there's a number of factors in play, and as we look at the detect phase of an event like this and assigning severity, and then also the temptation for professionals, especially higher up the ladder, to protect their personal brand. So we have to be diligent to ensure that we have the right priorities. Thank you.
That's a great point. That's a terrific point. I'm going to incorporate that into my next session on this. I do appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today. I'll be doing a follow-up of this next month. We're going to go a step further into crisis communication now that an event has occurred and afterwards. So we'll do sort of a hot wash of this event and talk about what was the communication like during the event. So please join us again. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And as always, be safe, because every crisis is a human crisis. Thanks so much to everyone on the call. Have a great day, and this will conclude our session for today.